Have you ever thought of never mowing again? Or maybe the thought of sitting in a lawn chair and sipping some iced tea while you watch your lawn being mowed without having to pay a crew or yell at your kids to do it? Well, this Segway Navimow may be the ticket for that. This is a robotic mower from Segway. Specifically, it's the model number H1500N-VF, and it also includes the VisionFence Sensor here on the top front of the mower. Now, this mower will go through a planned sequence or a planned map that you set up via your smartphone on an app. Very easy to do. And it will go out, mow the yard, and by the way, it will do it in symmetric stripes or go back and forth as you want it to, even do a different diagonal if you want to. Won't do stripes yet, but maybe that's coming. But then it will return to its base, slide right in, and keep it charged for the next time that it goes out and does its route again. Now let's dig into the details of this, and then we're going to actually set this up. We're going to set it up on our acreage here, but it's really not set to do 5 acres of property, but we're going to set up a path to just see how it does, and then we're going to take it to a more manicured lawn, a more typical homeowner's lawn, and we'll see how well it does there long term. We'll probably even do another follow-up video with it at that homeowner's place. And then, by the way, we're going to come back and talk about pricing and what we think of it. So here we have the Segway Navimow, and as I mentioned, this is the H1500N-VF. And I really think the only difference in the different model numbers is the size of batteries that it does use. I think this has the 7.5 amp hour battery in it, and the largest one, which is a 3000, has I think a 10 or 11 amp hour battery. Anyway, this is sitting on the charging pad, so we have the Navimow here. And this is where it just kind of rolls in and pushes in there and then starts charging automatically. We'll show it charging here in a few moments. This pad here is just a very light plastic pad, and this is where your electronics are for the charging. It does have like an antenna post that connects to it, connects to these connectors here, and a power supply connects to one of these, and we'll do that here in a moment as well. But basically this tongue here just sticks in this port right here and charges the unit once it returns. Now let's remove our pad here for a moment, and we'll roll the Segway in here. Now if you want an idea of size, these wheels here are right at 8 inches. Length of the mower is right about 26 inches from the maybe a little less, maybe about right at 2 feet. So about 24 inches. Overall height is going to be right at a foot tall, 11.5 inches tall. And then about 18 inches track width here. So from edge to edge of the wheels, you're looking at right at 18 inches. Now you can see here sticking on the top of this mower is what they call their vision fences. This is like an additional feature on these mowers. So you can basically go into the app. I can go into the Navimow app and I can actually add the device, add the mower, and then I can map out my lawn, which we'll show you here in one moment. And you can actually, map out trees, maybe even different things that are in your lawn that you want it to go around. But this is in case a kid's toy or something or the pet or something, it rolls up, detects that, and then will actually maneuver the mower or shut it down or whatever it needs to do. It adds a lot better ability to actually notice things that are out of the ordinary, if you will. Now, if I flip this up on its back, see the huge cutting blades here? No, I'm kidding. So this is basically the rotating assembly. So the motor's obviously spinning that. And these act as little like bush hog blades, if you know what a bush hog is. And they are very small, kind of razor sharp on the edges, on the front and back side. Just 3 of them that rotate on these screws. And by the way, you get an extra set of these with the mower. And they sling out under speed, and that's what cuts the grass. Now this is also what's not really going to cut you, at least not in a bad way, if somehow you were to get your hand or foot or something underneath to get hit, or even something left in the yard that it doesn't detect. It's not going to do a lot of damage because these do swing out of the way if they hit something, but they are weighted enough to at least cut through the grass, or we'll actually be able to see that in a moment. We have like swivel casters here on the front, and obviously the drive wheels here in the back, and this is where you can remove these screws and actually access the battery. Now from the mowing app, we can actually adjust this cutting deck, and I believe we can cut it somewhere between 30 and 60 millimeters, which to me that should be about 1.25 to 2.5 inches as far as cut height. And again, we'll check that here in a moment as well. Now there's really not much here that has to be maintained at all. Basically this thing should be able to go on its own, do its own thing, and you just let it be and map out different things as your yard changes or as you add different things to your yard. But otherwise, this is meant to be something that doesn't cause you headache, just takes away the headache of actually mowing your yard, and it makes it where basically it's just always mowed. You're never having to worry about it because it never seems to get really high. Now this is a rather simple install. This is like an antenna that needs to connect to the charging pad here. So the charging pad or the docking pad, whatever you want to call this, you can use these yard stakes that actually screw down into these holes and keep everything stationary as far as the charging pad goes. They even have a wrench in there that you can use to screw these things down. I'm sure if you're wanting to screw this to concrete, you could put some Tapcons or some type of cement anchors in there to keep it down on a piece of concrete, as long as that concrete is level with your lawn or somewhat level to your lawn. Now on this antenna is a wire, and this wire comes down and then connects to one of these pigtails. Actually, it connects to the more serial port where there's multiple wires there, and you screw this together, and that's going to give you a nice watertight connection. And the other port right here is going to connect to this, which is basically a power supply. It looks kind of like a laptop power supply. I'm sure it's just a transformer. And again, same way, it's hard to mess up. It just connects, has a little tongue in there to make sure you're connecting it correctly, and then you can plug this in. Now obviously you also get, I don't know, that's probably a 25-50 foot cable to extend this, because it needs to be at least a few feet from your home or from any trees. So you will have to either dig a small trench to bury this, or you can actually use these stakes here to actually clamp it down into the grass and let the grass grow over the top of it. However you want to do that, you can do so. Now we've plugged it in, and you'll see this start to blink, and then the mower should kind of come alive here and now start blinking green. We don't have it connected yet to the app. That's probably why it's blinking green, but it is telling me that the battery is 100%. And you'll see this is flashing blue. I believe if it's red, it has no signal, and then it should also turn a different color. You see this blinking green. Once we get it all connected, this antenna will connect to the satellites, and we'll be able to program everything on the mower. This stake here is going to screw to this post, and then you can just stake this down in the ground. I'm not going to walk through the actual installation of this pad. Very simple to do. Basically, you set up the antenna, run the wires down. You can Velcro it to the antenna mount there. You just push that down in the ground with your feet. Then you push the stakes in, or screw the stakes in, or more like big old lawn screws, if you will, to mount the charging pad to the ground. And then you want to make sure that you either get a blue or a green light there where you see the Segway sign. And once you do that, and you'll do that through the app, and once you do that, you're going to put the mower on there. That's where it docks and charges. See me pull away here, that's where the light turns blue. They're on the Segway sign, and then we push this back in, which that's where it will actually find home again and actually charge the unit. So whenever it goes on its map, and it will cut your yard and cut the different sections of the yard and then return here for charging. So once this is set up, you'll go to the app and set everything up. I'm not going to walk through all that. Let's touch on a couple of things. I'm going to go here to my Navimow app. Should see it here on the screen. And now it says there is no map yet. You just heard the mower now say that it's paired. So if you set everything up right, which on the screen of your app, it should walk you right through the whole installation process. Should not have any problems with that. Very simple to actually set up the mower and get it to sync. And now it says there's no map yet, so we need to create a map. I'm going to hit the plus sign and say create a map. It's going to make you watch this complete video. I don't know, it's a couple of minutes long. Since I've already seen it, I can say, okay, I understand. And then it goes through a self-checking process to make sure everything's connected to the mower. You can say next. And now what it asks you to do, it asks you to, this is actually on the, it's a pretty good idea actually. This is actually on one of the cardboard pieces on the box, and it's perforated, so you can just kind of pull that out, and then you pull off the stickum piece, and you can actually stick it right here on the mower. And that's for, you're not supposed to get any closer than the 15 centimeters. So I don't know, that's roughly probably what, probably 6-8 inches to like a fence line or, you know, some type of brush or whatever. That's how far you're supposed to stay away. So you can actually stick this on the mower while you map out your area to make sure that you're not getting any closer than that. I guess that's kind of its size of error, if you will, as this gives this its buffer zone, if you will, if it misses a little bit. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and say the ruler is attached firmly. It's saying that before you actually do your first, you know, mapping, that you should cut your lawn or have the lawn cut. I'm going to say, okay, all set. Our lawn is quite thin right now, which we're going to take this out into a nicer, plusher lawn, but for now we're going to try it here. And now I can say calibrate. You see the mower backs out and says, now let's start mapping. So I can hit the start button. It's going to make me watch this, and then I say, okay, I've got it. And now I can take the mower, and you drive this just like you would like a little remote control car. Forward, back, right, left. So very easy to do this. Now I'm going to bring it up to its starting point. So I'm going to call that its starting point, and I'm going to say, okay, reach starting point. For mapping, make sure the right rear wheel faces the boundary. That's correct. Start mapping. And now I'm just going to drive this thing around the lawn and map out the system. So this is pretty self-explanatory, but we're basically mapping out the boundary of just an area here in the yard, just so it will have a course to run on. And again, as we were just mentioning, you're basically just driving this thing like a little radio controlled car with forward and side to side. And by the way, it is sensitive as well, where you can go fast or slow and kind of vary that speed as well as you can turn while you're going forward as well. You don't have to do just a right turn. And once we get all the way around the perimeter here, so we're kind of drawing a rectangle, but not really. We've got a couple of turns and a couple of little, you know, ins and outs that we're adding in here as well, and some round corners, but basically trying to get back to our starting point. And you'll see once we get close to that starting point, it kind of notifies us. You can kind of slow down. Once you get to here, it lets us know. Okay, now I've reached its starting point. I'm going to click done and then say save map. So you can see here that my charging pad, I've kind of worked its way around here, since I do have a cord running down here. I haven't buried this or anything because this is a temporary location. But my map now shows it kind of goes around this like a peninsula. And so it should, as it's mowing, be able to work its way around that without running that over, but also be able to return home. I'm going to click continue and then done. And now it gives me the ability to, now it says mow now. And as soon as we hit that mow now button, it's going to now start on its path. It's going to kind of map out this entire place and put some logic behind in the route that it's taking as well. So right now it's headed back to the charging station. And now it's docked and charging again. Now I'm going to go to my screen and I'm going to go to cutting height, and you can see I can set my cutting height anywhere from 60 on down to 30. I'm going to set it at, say, let's say 45, right in the middle. It says setting successful. Now I can go back and I'm going to now select mow now. And by the way, I can also do that on the mower, but I'm going to do it from my app, say mow now. So now it's leaving the base and again headed out to now cut the entire map that we've drawn out. And so here it is going back and forth. I'm going to take an obstacle and throw it out in front of it just to see if the VisionFence actually detects it. It did, backs up, goes around it, makes a few turns and gets around that obstacle. Comes back, does the same thing. Once it realizes it's in front of it, backs up, moves around it, and keeps going. That's what that VisionFence does. So really cool feature with that VisionFence and the ability for it to kind of see the obstacle and not just have it mapped out for it. So here it is going through its map, but also going back and forth like you'd be mowing with a push mower or something like that, and almost like striping the lawn. In fact, you can see those lines in the lawn for sure, and it's going through this entire map that we've set forth, and here it comes back home. Now this was another scheduled event that we started for the next day, I believe, or maybe a day or two later. You can see there's still some long grass right around that base. That's what I was talking about with needing the string trim. You're still going to need the string trim, so in the areas it doesn't get, you're going to have to take care of that because it can't go right up against things like a fence line or a tree or a light pole or something like that. So you are going to have to come back with a string trimmer and take care of things. Pretty impressed with the different angles of approach and the different lines of mowing that actually gives it a nice level finish. With it changing directions, then it doesn't just lay the grass over a single way. And here it is again, detecting something we put in front of it, this bag of topsoil or fertilizer, whatever that is, and the VisionFence catching it, realizing it, backing up, turning around, and avoiding that obstacle. We several times did this, again, without mapping this in the map, which you could definitely do if it were an obstacle that stays in the way, but in this case, something left in the yard, a kid's toy, whatever, a dog, and it realizes it, sees it, backs up, goes around, makes some turns, and avoids that obstacle. And again, that's due to that VisionFence, which is what looks like that camera sitting there on top of the mower and actually seeing those obstacles and not utilizing the GPS mapping to go around it. Now here's where you can literally see the stripes going back and forth here, and then if you'll notice, you can also see them going at an angle as well. So that's where, again, the night before it had run kind of a square pattern, and now it's running more of a diagonal pattern. So changing it up each time it goes out. And by the way, what it does is once it's mowed 100%, then it changes direction the next time and changes that up so it's not always cutting in the same direction or in the same paths. And here we have just speeded it up here with some GoPro footage and just showing it, finishing this whole map in its diagonal series and avoiding those obstacles out on the lawn as well. And you'll see it come back home once it's finished. There we go. So it comes back home and it's ready to go. And here's some footage of, again, where we've got it right now, where we've left it with some nice plush St. Augustine lawn. This yard right here, this part of the yard was not cut prior to. Very soft and spongy yard, as well as long grass, and it was still able to do this. We don't recommend this. In fact, Segway Navimow, they recommend you to cut this first. We did not. We just wanted to see it in action and see if it would handle it, and it did. However, it handles it much better once the grass is cut. And in fact, here you can see it wasn't edged or anything. In the moment, you'll see where it's been manicured now and edged and trimmed and looks a lot nicer. But again, we wanted to throw it at it. Even some nighttime footage. Really cool looking mower at night as well with some, looks like neon lighting. So here's the lawn now after a few days of scheduled mowing, and just looks all level. You really don't see anything out of hand at all, but we do recommend that you come back and string trim and edge probably once a week or so during growing season. We've been very impressed with the Segway Navimow Robotic Mower. Specifically, this is the model number H1500. Now, I do want to clear some things up. While this is a mower that basically you can set the map on it and let it go and run it through its scheduled events, and it does a great job, and we really didn't have any hiccups that weren't just things like long grass and something in the way, things like that, and I'll get to that in a moment. But even though it will run its map and take care of those things, you're still going to have to come by, say once a week during the, growing season with a string trimmer and take care of the things that it didn't get. So even though it may go around that tree or around that light pole or around your landscaping, it's not going to go, over the border and mow everything or go right up to it and actually string trim along a fence. So you're going to have to come back and string trim. In the case of where we've got the mower right now, so we tried this thing out here at our property. We just have a large, acreage, several acres of property, and that's Bahia grass here in Central Florida. It's a really tough grass to cut, but as you can see, very sparse. We haven't had a lot of rain yet, so it's not real green and plush, but it is a tough grass to cut. But we wanted to kind of try things out here and then move it over to, as you can see, some nice plush. That's St. Augustine grass, again, here in Central Florida. So really plush and thick grass, so another one that's tough to cut, and really tough on actually being able to go through the terrain because it's nice and plush. When you walk on it, you kind of sink down in like a sponge. So we really wanted to see, hey, is the mower going to be able to handle that? Which it does. However, again, you're going to need to come by and string trim, say, once a week, and this is also something that you don't want to not maintain. And this really goes for any robotic mower. These robotic mowers are not meant to be bush hogs or big, industrial zero-turn mowers that can mow down, 6 inches, 8 inches of grass. They're meant to maintain your cut. So in other words, they even recommend you to go ahead and cut the lawn first and then let it come behind and actually maintain it. And in fact, when we took it over to the house it's at now with the nice plush St. Augustine, we actually let it run on the longer grass. It did it, but it had some difficulty. And on the side yard of that same lawn, we went ahead and cut it, and the mower had no problem at all. The Navimow had no problem at all traversing all of that. So again, do the recommendation of cutting the grass first, and also make sure that you're trimming and edging from time to time as well, because it's not going to do that for you. Just setting some expectation that this thing is not push a button, never worry about it again. However, it does a great job of just, you come home, you realize, wow, it's run again. In fact, it runs different patterns, as we mentioned, not just, long ways and short ways, but diagonal as well. Really changing the way it's attacking the grass to make sure it's keeping everything nice and level. Now, we're also going to do a follow-up review or a follow-up video on this as well to make sure that it's still living up to its expectations and finding out were there any idiosyncrasies that we've noticed along the way. So be sure to look out for that. Now let's talk about pricing. Well, this is not exactly out on the market just yet here in the United States. In fact, it's on Indiegogo, and you can get this at a discount right now. So if you purchase this right now, the H1500 with the VisionFence, you're looking at $1,699. Now, the normal price on that is like $2,400 or $2,399. So right now you're saving several $100 to purchase that. Now, you won't get it until July. So estimated delivery is July here in the United States of the Navimow mower. So you can check those out. We'll have a link in the description on those. And also, you're going to get a 2-year warranty if you purchase now. And again, you're going to wait a couple of months before you receive that sometime in July. Now, be sure to look for our follow-up video coming in the next couple of weeks. Also, keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even TikTok. And if you don't mind, would you hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already? And by all means, if you hated our video, well, then give us a thumbs down. But would you let us know in the comments why? Have a great day and keep smiling.